JayEmm on Cars is kindly sponsored by Car Vertical, the only car history checking service you'll need, which references more than 20 databases globally to make sure you don't buy a car with a hidden past. For a special discount on the service, please use the link in the description down below. And now, today's feature presentation.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another entry in my series of Porsche Boxster alternatives. Cars that you might be looking at in the classifieds if you've seen that great big yellow thing in the sky for the first time this year and you're wondering how to spend your summer. Now, we've already looked at a few different cars. The Mercedes SL63 a lovely looking thing, but a little bit small, quite jiggly and not at all very happy on your kind of back road where the Boxster would be king. Then we followed up with the Mazda MX-5 30th anniversary, a wonderful car that really punches above its weight, but I appreciate for many it's maybe not the right thing. An MX-5 is a little too common, the badge not prestige enough. And then we looked at the Maserati Gran Cabrio, a genuine four-seater convertible with a luxury badge, the appropriate trimming inside, and a spectacular engine note. However, a lot of people will be wary of buying a Maserati, and it's not exactly the most dynamic of things. Plus, not everybody wants a four-seater convertible. Maybe you just want a two-seater. So, today we're looking at the daddy, the Merc SL63, the car which really defines the luxury convertible segment for many. Now, I know there'll be some people out there saying, but what about the SL65? Yes, that's a thing as well. You could go and buy one of those. But I think if you were considering it as a Boxster alternative, I think that's probably pushing it just a little bit too far in terms of the running cost stakes. So this is a 2017 car, which I believe is a facelift of the most recent generation, and it's been kindly loaned to me by its owner, Anthony, who is an author, and he has recently released a new book. So if you want to go and see a bit more about that, follow the link in the description down below. He's a bit of a petrol head on the side, and I've got to say, this is a fabulous looking car. Roof up or roof down, it looks amazing. In fact, roof up, it's got real sort of old school American muscle car vibes about it with just a bit of Germanic sophistication. Roof down, it's a rather nice thing too, and as a cruiser, this thing is lovely. Now, it's not the softest of suspensions, but that's for a very good reason, because you see, a car like this, I really don't envy the designers, because this has so many diametrically opposed requirements. It's amazing they get it to work at all. They want it to be very comfortable, but very fast. They want it to be luxurious, but also sporty. So you wind up with some odd things like lots and lots of leather, nice, and then all this carbon fibre trim. Now, carbon fibre to me says lightweight, but this car's a fully paid up member of the 2-ton club. Now, of course, a proper AMG needs a proper engine, and the SL63 does not disappoint. For up front, you will find a colossal 5.5-litre bi-turbo V8, making 580 horsepower and a frankly staggering 664 pound-feet of torque. That's 900 Nm for you Europeans, and in the AMG tradition, it has of course been built by one man, Dennis in this case. Good work, Dennis. And thanks to that engine, you wouldn't really know this car was quite so heavy. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. So, when you're just driving around normally, what's it like? First off, very intimidating. The SLK is actually surprisingly small. The SL, surprisingly large. I, for the last few days, have been driving around my friend Michael's 12C, McLaren 12C that is. And that's a car that you need about 30 seconds in to feel extraordinarily comfortable with. You know exactly where that car is, and the whole thing just shrinks around you. This is absolutely gargantuan. It's a huge car, and it never feels anything other than that. It's massive and quite daunting to drive. It doesn't help that it's got lots and lots of go, which means if you're trying to be gentle on the throttle, if you're not in comfort mode, it can want to go sideways if the weather is anything less than perfect. And when the weather is perfect, it'll go sideways anyway. These were very expensive cars when they were new, and even now they're not especially cheap, but then they are only a few years old. To get something a bit like this, you're looking at spending about 60,000 quid, but for your money you do get a car that really does feel quite upmarket. You have the aforementioned acreage of leather, you have these gorgeous, really comfy, very supportive seats. Everything in here does really feel sort of hewn from solid block of granite. Okay, some of this infotainment down here looks like it's a little bit old now, but it all works, it all functions nicely. Everything you touch is pretty solid, even the plasticky bits. I don't like the little silly gear lever here, that's an annoyance, but hey ho, everything seems to have it now. And you have, of course, a plethora of driving modes. Other cool luxury stuff includes things like the little wind deflector at the back, which is automatic. That's lovely, but I'm leaving that down for the camera to get a better view. And indeed, you could quite happily drive this thing around, never going beyond 2,000 RPM, and you'd have a really, really very good time. I haven't had long in this car so far, but it's the little things you notice, like when you open the boot, all the roof moves out the way so you can get to your stuff. That's lovely and convenient, because if it didn't do that, you'd have to kind of just drag stuff out, kicking and screaming. The dials here are very nice, very typical Merc, but typical high-end Merc, and that engine gives you just that little hint of sort of aggression. It's like Mike Tyson practicing a couple of doors down. It's really rather special. However, as mentioned, this car really does need to fill two roles: cruiser and bruiser. So what's it like as a bruiser? Well, to test that out, we're probably going to need to put the car in a different mode. So we've got several to choose from here. You have Comfort, you've got Sport, you've got Sport Plus. And as you might hear there, it will change gear again when you go from Comfort to Sport and Sport to Sport Plus. And you've also got a race mode too, which will then change gear once more. In fact, it's really revving quite high now. It's 3,000 RPM second gear through a village. Race changes things again. It's even more aggressive with the gearbox mapping, so it will change down another gear. It's more aggressive with the throttle, gives you race traction control, which is a little bit loose when it wants to be. I'm not sure if it actually changes anything with the exhaust. It might be just because it's revving that much higher that you think it has. So I'm also going to put this car into its manual mode. And there we have it. Now, in truth, when the car's in comfort setting, it's still not super plush, not kind of Rolls-Royce-y kind of levels of plushness, but it's a very, very good thing. And I can tell you this car feels overall a heck of a lot more solid than the SLK did. That was rattling and creaking its way down every road I threw it at. This thing, you can tell, isn't doing any of that, and that's good, because that would be entirely unforgivable. In fact, I'm not sure I really can forgive it in the SLK, but here that would just be an instant fail. So we've now got everything in race mode, manual, but I've turned the suspension into comfy. Let's put our foot down and see what that 580 horsepower can do to 2 tons of convertible. Quite honestly, this car makes an absolute mockery of its curb weight. That engine is an utter masterpiece. Turbo lag, practically non-existent. This is how all turbo engines should be. The current crop of VAG motors are just obscenely laggy. A 992 Turbo S's engine should show this car who's boss. In actual fact, it's the other way around. This is vastly superior to the Porsche power plant, and that's not right. It shouldn't be like that. But okay, I hear you cry. I'm sure it is very fast in a straight line. What's it like around a bend? I suppose we should check. That's one of the faster sections of road that I use. It's not too demanding, but this feels obscenely sure-footed. I've rarely driven anything that feels this planted. Steering even has a nice weight to it, even if it's not the most tactile, but that's fine. That's exactly what you expect. You want that sense of heft to be conveyed, but this thing feels utterly marvelous. We've got some more demanding stuff coming up in a minute, and I'm really keen to see how this car feels. But honestly, in the first sort of 10 minutes behind the wheel of this thing, it's absolutely blowing me away. This really is everything that a Mercedes should be, because that's what I think people expect from the brand. They expect something that's got performance, has got luxury, got that real solid feel about it. And let's be honest here, in the last 20 years, a lot of Mercs have not really met that job description. The gearbox is also absolutely fabulous. Around town, it's smooth, it's quiet, it's refined, but when you're on it, the shifts are delivered with millimeter precision. You'd easily be fooled into thinking this was a dual clutch box, but it's not. It's a Merc 7-speed, and that's amazing because the SLK's weak point was its gearbox, and that was a Merc 7-speed. This is the pace of progress. Later SLs, I believe, got the 9-speed, but I think the 63 might have always kept the 7, probably because it was a little bit stronger. It's for that exact reason why the 5-speed gearbox was in service for quite as long as that was. There is ein Messerschmitt going through the village. I love this car. This is so good. I think in the last few years, because of the presence of the AMG GT, the SL as a model line has just been entirely overlooked, certainly for the performance enthusiast. I can see that, but I think this looks better. I've yet to drive the AMG GT in the real world, but that's going to change soon. However, compared with the SLS, and that really is the halo car, and that's the one that everyone really, really wants, this is not just a little bit better, it's vastly better. The SLS had an awful gearbox, and that was a dual clutch. It was far too stiff, and this has all the build quality, it has the drama, it has the goods to back it up. It's got serious firepower, and the gearbox is much better. I can't think of any reason beyond the sort of collectability or cool factor why you would want an SLS over one of these. You have a panoramic sunroof in this thing, so even if you are the sort of person that doesn't really like the wind in your hair, you can still get a little bit of light through into the cabin. Is a Boxster quicker? No. Not in the real world, no way. It'd only be if the roads were so tight and twisty and small that you're afraid this was taking up too much space. That's the only time a Boxster is going to eke out any performance advantage over this. Yes, this is going to drink more. Yes, maybe at some point it'll break, and if it does, it'll be really expensive, but it's also new enough you can get it with a warranty. So you don't need to worry about that sort of stuff. The engine is a superstar. Just the response out of it is so good. Yes. Oh. Please. Brakes pretty decent too, and they need to be in something this big, quick and heavy. You'd think they'd be ceramics, but they're not. They're in fact just massive steel items, and that's absolutely fine. I got no problem with that. Now, is this a car without fault? No, of course not. It is very large, still has only the 2 seats, limited luggage capacity, although it does have a little bit of room behind the seats, and the boot is much more generous than in the SLK. Of course, with the roof up, you've then got a little bit more storage again, and that's all very nice. I wish this was leather covered, and it's simply not. You've got to deal with that mighty engine's unquenchable thirst, but other than that, it's actually not a car with really that many faults, and it's rare that I say that. I have to be brutally honest, I would definitely have this over a brand new 992 Turbo S, and I think I'd have it over a Ferrari California T as well. That, okay, felt a little bit more special in some ways, but this feels better built, and I think this feels faster too. Sorry, Ferrari. It's luxurious, it sounds good, it looks good. This is a proper Merc. I think not only is this one of my favourite cars in the playlist so far, I think this is going straight on my favourite cars list. Full stop. You think this is an old man's car? You haven't tried one. You really need to give this a go. In truth, despite warnings from the owner, I haven't found traction to be too much of an issue today, but you do get the sense that if things aren't right, it will be a problem. But that's not really a surprise. Anything with this amount of power and torque and rear-wheel drive is going to have similar issues. Because I've sold my Lamborghini, I now have some money set aside to buy something which potentially could just be a summer car until I find something that is genuinely going to replace it. The temptation just to pop into the classifieds and buy one of these is very great right about now. This being a later car, early ones you could have a performance pack on, and that would make a difference to the power. I think you could still get a performance pack with these, but I'm not sure it changed the power. So they all had 580 brake. I'm really not that au fait with my Merc, so if you want to know more about the specifics of this kind of thing, check out a buyer's guide. That's going to be the best way to do things. And then once you're done having fun. You pop it back into comfort, where it isn't great because it does just want to get the thing into the highest gear it can as quickly as it can, and that means you'll find yourself going along at just over 1,000 RPM. So you'll want to make an overtake, and you put your foot down, and nothing really happens, and it sort of shuffles around a bit, and then it goes. So then it feels a little bit clumsy, but honestly, if you're doing any sort of sporty driving, you'll be in control. It'll be fine. All the usual refinements, air scarf, which actually works in this car. I've had air scarf in other cars before, and it's never been any good. This one, it actually does the job. This is cracking. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm gonna have a bit more fun in race mode. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.